recording. May we finish this class with Geula Amitis Veshlema, so we could just break our fast in Yerushalayim.
Amen.
So we're gonna, Bezrat Hashem, move forward with the author's introduction, right? It's introduction from the Mittel Rebbe to this Kuntrus. Okay, let me just do the annotation so you see exactly where I am in the text.
Would people like it to be a little bit bigger? Maybe. Yeah.
Is this better?
Yeah, that's definitely better.
Okay, so just a little background, right? This Kuntrus was written after the Kuntrus Haispilos that the Rebbe wrote. So Kuntrus Haispilos has a whole history on its own. As you know, there was a machlekes in Lubavitch, right? There was always machlekes in Lubavitch. So what was the machlekes about? That after Alter Rebbe passed away, there was uncertainty who's supposed to be the next Rebbe, and who offered himself as for that role besides the Mittel Rebbe was Rabbi Aaron Sterisheller. He was actually the chavrusa of the Mittel Rebbe, and he was an exceptionally charismatic person. And since there was this notion that it passes, the Rebbe passes from son to from a father to son, because the Baal Shem Tov was not the father of the Maggid, and Maggid was not the father of the Alter Rebbe. So the successor didn't have to be the son per se. And therefore, nobody expected the Mittel Rebbe to be the next Rebbe. And his avodah was very, very different. The Mittel Rebbe's, then the way he expressed himself was very different than the Alter Rebbe expressed himself. Although Chassidim had, they accepted the Mittel Rebbe as a Rebbe, but there was those Chassidim who did not. And they went with Sterisheller, Rabbi Aaron Sterisheller. And Rabbi Aaron Sterisheller was an exceptionally emotional person, and he was very charismatic. And they were able, and the Chassidim who chose him as the Rebbe, it was easier for them to relate to him, because Alter Rebbe was also very emotional, the way he davened and all that was very, very emotional. The Mittel Rebbe hardly moved during his davening. So Chassidim didn't feel that he was the guy that follows exactly, that is a continuation of the Alter Rebbe. They felt more that Rabbi Aaron Sterisheller is a continuation. And there was those Chassidim who strongly felt no, and that was, the machlekes. So because the avodah of Sterisheller was mainly the hispailos, the outer hispailos, to such an extent that it would draw people. I mean, it's not just about the machlekes. If you will understand the power that Rabbi Aaron Sterisheller had on affecting people, that Chassidim who were very loyal to the Alter Rebbe, to the Mittel Rebbe, wouldn't even go to a chasana of the relatives if Rabbi Aaron Sterisheller would be there, because they were afraid that he's going to capture them and draw them to him. So that's how powerful this machlekes was. So it wasn't just about the thought, it's about that they really were just like, avoiding contact with this guy. In the end, it didn't last long. Rabbi Aaron Sterisheller's Chassidus only went on till the next generation to his son, and that was it. And then it became something different, and it was no longer Chabad. But in the light of all these machlekes that went on between the Chassidim, who is the true Chabad Rebbe, so quote, the birur between that, it never actually happened again. in the whole Chabad history, where there was two Rebbes, so-called, two Chabad Rebbes. The birur was done through the Mittel Rebbe. So Mittel Rebbe went on through a lot of Agmas Nefesh because of the situation. And he wrote a Kuntres Haispailos, where he nails down what is Chabad way of Hispailos. Okay, and the conclusion of that a true Hispailos comes through proper Hisboinanus. Okay, not just like random inspiration that comes at random times, but it's a structured. However, it does come spontaneously. Okay, so this is, I guess, the difference between being random and spontaneously. Okay, and it's a beautiful kuntres, and I'm having thoughts of maybe teaching it, because it does add a lot to the dryness of Shara Yichud, right? Shara Yichud comes as a very dry left brain thing. But Kuntres Hispailos helps us to understand the processes that happens to us emotionally while we are going through the process of Hisboinanus with Shara Yichud. So for me, they're very complementary. This is the mind of Chassidus, and this is more of the heart of Chassidus. So it's a kind of like this, two things. But anyway, this is the introduction to it. Mahus HaKuntres Halaz, right? This is the pamphlet that speaks, the mahus of this pamphlet speaks about Medaber Be'inyan Hayichud Elokus, speaks about the matter of the godly unity of Hashem. B'chol prat uprat, in all its detail, b'seder ha'ishtalshelus, and the seder of ishtalshelus, the Eser spheres, the Abiyah, the 10 spheres of Atzilus, Bria, and Yitzira, and Asiya. Okay? V'hu kitzur mikol asher yochel ish likra lekarev al seichel, right? And this it's like a kitzur, right? There's a summary, okay, that everything that the person can bring close to his mind, bahasoga melubeshes, right, in the matter of comprehension. Okay, b'moyach v'leiv, in the heart, in the mind and in the heart, b'chol pirtei seder ishtalshelus, in all the details of the seder ishtalshelus, mitzimtzum arishoin, from the first tzimtzum ad sof olam asiyah, until the end of the world of Asiya. Okay, so the scope of the Seder Ishtalshelus that the Mittel Rebbe is sharing with us is from first Tzimtzum until this ball, basically. Okay. Well, truly, it's accurate and not so accurate, because there are few levels that the Mittel Rebbe shares with us that are above first Tzimtzum. So he says it first like that, but then in reality, we also learn about the levels that are above the Tzimtzum. Okay, and this kuntres that we are learning is called kuntres ha'izboinus. That are many, okay, have yearned to see it in print. Right, because there were many mistakes in the hand-copied manuscripts. That's why the Mittel Rebbe said, okay, enough is enough, I'm printing it. Okay, muftachni ma'od sheikabel l'rotzon lifnei Hashem kavanasi ha'ritzueh l'tovat kol ish doirish elokim be'emes. Right, and I'm sure that this will be accepted with a ratzon in front of Hashem. My kavana, okay, my intent for the benefit of every single person who seeks God truly. Okay, ubatamim, and with sincerity. Okay, and you should judge me for the zuchus. Right, with everything that chachamim will see unfitting. Right, and it is written, they found not fitting in the eyes of the wise, right? And who can discern his errors? Hashem Yarim Keren Israel, right? And Hashem should uplift the horn of Israel. V'yair Eneim B'or Hashem, and he should lead the eyes with the light of Hashem, or Olam, the everlasting light. V'chen b'chesed u'v'rachamim b'chaya neshama, in the life of the neshama, b'chaya guf, and the life of the body. V'hinat lam v'hinasam kol yemei olam v'biat goel, and may he always support and uplift them until the coming of the Redeemer. B'chol divrei, b'chol divrei hamedaber be'emes la'avas or ha'emes, right? And these are the words of who speaks in truth and with the love of the light of truth and faith, right? Be'emes u'be'emunah oiv. Okay, devek mi'ach echos ukshor bechevlei avoid ava v'yira. Okay, and this is like as a friend that is closer than a brother, who is bound with the bonds of great love and eternal love for all those who seek and search out Hashem. Okay. Okay, b'chol mevakshe v'darshe elokim b'darchei ha'emes b'toiro mitzvahs tefillah and shuva, right? Which is in the words of truth, in Torah mitzvahs, the tefillah and shuva. Okay, mikerev v'lev amok, right? From the depth of my heart, Naum, and the name of the Rebbe, okay, Admor Hagon, okay, Shner Zalman, etc. Right? Dover, the son of my father, master, teacher, and Rebbe, the holy genius, the master and the teacher. Okay, in his father's name, may the memory of the righteous bring blessings, and may his soul repose in Eden. Okay, so this is the introduction. From here, we definitely see that the Mittel Rebbe makes it a very interesting distinction there. The key words here, those who see God Bamas, right? Why is it? Because, if a person had come to a desire, right, or revealed his desire to seek Hashem with truth, little obstacles here and there in our understanding, difficulty, text, being too dry, being too wet, and all these things. These are the things that we could pass on because we truly know, the truth that stands behind this kuntras and the work and the light that this kuntras brings to, Baruch Hashem, many, many people who study it. And as we know, this kuntras is brought down as the Kito Chassidus in Hayom Yom and in, a few other writings. And, this is definitely something essential. Okay, chapter 1. Remember our chapter 1, everything what we know from chapter 1, let's memories come up. Okay, we know exactly, what we've learned, 2 times went over it and discussed it. And, just in your mind, if you could envision the scope of the first chapter, what is he trying to teach us? What levels the Rebbe is talking about, and which direction chapter 1 actually goes. Chapter 1 brings us to all the levels of Eon, right? Traveling all the way up to Pnimius Nukudas Alev, right? The Bina of Atik Yomin. So if you could just just go zooming up all the levels in your mind, 1, 2, 3, right? From the lower level of Eon, which is Bina of Bina, all the way high. Vehina kvar mavur ba'arichos b'kuntros miyuchat. We already have explained at length in a special pamphlet. Okay, and what he refers to, kuntros ha'ispalos. Okay, but pirti afane ha'ispalos, right? In all details of different hispalos, right? Which is the arousal, b'moach v'lev, in the brain and in the heart, u'machshava, and a thought, nolad mina hisbainanos. Right, and the thought that is being born from his bainanos, lefi seder, according to the level of Hey Madregas Naran Chai, the 5 levels of Naran Chai. And this is what Kunshas Espailos does. The Kunshas Espailos maps out all the levels of our awareness of self on emotional and on our conscious level, and how it relates to our Avodah B'Torah and Mitzvahs on these 5 levels, starting from the lower level of Asiya and going all the way up. Okay, so Rabbi is saying we already have explained at length in Kunshas Espailos consuming all these particular things that are happening in our Espailos that is born from his Boinanos. Okay, so that we already know. Now, me'ata yesh levayer heitiv mahuz guf inyana is Boinanos. So now I'm going to teach you the real thing. There we talked about what happens to you when you do hisbonenus. But after that, a person might ask a question, but what is hisbonenus? Right? Like you're teaching me, you're teaching me about myself, how it evolves while I do hisbonenus. Okay, I understand it. Now I want to do hisbonenus, right? Teaching me how I'm going to feel when I'm going to eat steak, right? I'm sorry, I'm talking about food. Now, where's the steak? Right? So that's basically what it is, right? So now this contrast has a goal to answer two questions. What is hisbonenus? Okay, and what to be misbainan on. Okay, so this is the two questions. Okay, and this is very essential questions because it's true. What is hisbonenus? And what to be misbainan on. So if we'll look at the whole scope of Shara Yichud, until chapter 10, the Rebbe talks about what is hisbonenus, how to do it, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now, from chapter 10 and on, the main focus, what to be misbainan on. Right? So that's what it is. So you're like, oh boy. But in the process, okay, we could use the skills of hisbonenus on every single chapter that we learn. It's not like, I just take a deep breath until I do the chapter 10, and then no, on the contrary. Bezrat Hashem, we're going to be starting soon the chapter 3. And in that chapter, we're going to be giving 9 mashalim that we should be misbainan on this 9 mashalim. So meaning you shouldn't be waiting until the 10th chapter. This is a preparatory work that we do. So, when the real content is going to come of what to be misbainan on, we're going to have all the needed skills. We're going to have the kalim for it. Okay? That's why initially how he mapped out the chapters. Okay. Okay. V'hine mahusa hisbonenus ba'etzem hu inyan histaklus chazaka ba'amkus ha'inyan. Right? So now, the essence of hisbonenus is the matter of gazing strongly into the depth of the concept. Okay, so this is what mahus of the hisbonenus. V'lamod alav harve at sheyovin oisai al buryoy b'chol chelkov b'pirti pratis. Right? Until he understands it thoroughly in all its particular parts and depth. Right? Keeping one's mind for a long periods of time. That's what it is. Okay, so let's read it again. Right? The essence of the hisbonenus is the idea of histaklus chazaka, is a very strong gazing strongly, ba'amkus ha'inyan, into the depth of that idea, v'lamod alav, and to stand on it harbe, a lot. Until he's able to understand it in all its details and all its parts and all its details. Okay, and what is it? And this is the aspect of the pnimius of bina, hanikra b'shalom b'loshen gemara b'shem iyun. Right, as we speak in the language of the Gemara, in the name of iyun. K'masha amar b'maseches sukkah ha l'megirs v'ha l'iyunin. Right, this one is the girsa and this is the iyuna. Right, so there are two aspects of that. Girsa is a surface study, and iyun is in-depth study, and both are very essential. Okay, pirush girsa hu rak havanas hadavar b'hashkofa rishonim. So now, what is a girsa? Girsa is explanations of surface study. Is that one understands subject matter only at first glance. You just read it, and it just like oops, goes through. Okay. Shaholeches v'novaas b'meirus bilti uku v'amada klal. Right, that is follows quickly through the subject matter which he studies without restraining himself and pausing it all as known. Right? He doesn't have to hold himself back to understand it deeper, but he just, quickly goes over it. Al derech mashal hamabit be'inyan be'eina al dvar ma, right? And he gives a mashal, right? One may gaze upon a certain object, be'eina mizbainan klal, and he doesn't contemplate at all al hadavar, on that thing, be'uchusei muhusei, right? He doesn't investigate on the inner or outer parts, b'chol chelkav hapnimim v'chitzoniim, right? And the inner parts and the external parts. Rag derech ma'avir ba'alma, right? Only just like in a passing fashion. Yeah, that happens to us, right? Almost everything what we are looking at, it's hashkafa rishon, right? Just first glance, even physically, right? Because what will happen if you're gonna, take who knows how long at things that you see. But sometimes you see how little babies look at their hands. Did you ever see that? They're like this. Okay, like this. And you'll hear that. It's so cute. They're all of a sudden discovering that they have hands and they can actually move them. And they stare at it with wide open eyes, hours. They just look in the eyes. I was like, wow, I'm fascinating. I have hands. This is amazing. And then they turn them from this angle and then this angle and then that angle. That's his brightness. Okay, they're looking at this as novelty. It's like, whoa. Did you ever see kids go on a beach and collect all kinds of stones? And they know, and especially when they're beautiful, and they know every single stone, what kind of lines it has, and they could come and they could teach you, look at this one is shiny, this one has this crack, this one has that crack, and they know it so well because sure, they have nothing to worry about. So they literally sit there and they just collect all kinds of seashells and they know the patterns and and that's what we're talking about, right? When you really know it, okay? Zman, right? And when a person actually does this type of thing, right? The Girsa study, Meshach Zman Vada Yishkach Alav. And throughout the time, he for sure will forget about it, legamre, at all. Right? And he will not be able to tell to his to anybody out, to anybody else, rak klalus inyan oto hadavar, only in general about that thing, shara'a ba'avara sa'ayin, that he saw with a first glance, velo betvias ayin, and he did not see it in tvias ayin. Tvia, it means tovea, it's the literal translation of it is that when drowned, when your eyes are drowned in it, that's iyun. But when your eyes just like go over it, it's girsa. Okay, vias ayin. Okay, right? So this is like, remember, he took us to a journey to a mashal about our physical eyes, but he says it happens with the eyes, with the mind's eye as well. When the mind's eye just gazes upon, concept, okay, bilti ikuf, without stopping, v'amada, right? Le'inyan b'hahitiv. Okay, in the thing, to try to ayin b'hahitiv, like to do any type of analysis or investigate it properly. V'layada b'zavarazu b'techil teklal, right? Not known to the concept, right? To its ultimate depth at all. V'hin ki hina gimel dvarim u'sheyesh b'chol davar muskal. Right? And now he says there are three matters in every intellectual concept, which is omek, orech, berochav. Okay, that is familiar. It's like, oh, right. So when we hear this word, it rings a little bell. We know it. Arachav hu b'chinas hezber hamuskel b'chol tzad. Right, it starts with Rachav. What is Rachav? Rachav is the explanations of that seichel to every side. Pratim harbe, karachav anar, with all its details, like the width of the river. Just broad, many, many details lining up. Amazing. V'lo devarim, okay, kiyusam levat, okay, kanar katzar. Right, in a contrast, right, to the understanding of a concept simply as it is similar to a narrow river, right? When we don't give much explanations, this is just what it is, right? This is like a very narrow river. It's not a river that has many details, meaning details bring the width to the river. Now, what is orech? Orech hu otzem yiridat haskala lahalbish et hamuskal b'mishalim shanim. Now, the length is a tremendous descent, right? It's otzem yiridas haskala. It's a tremendous descent of the concept to invest into various different analogies. Why he calls it a descent? Because it's including the essence of the concept, and you don't see the actual concept. So there's already a descent. That's why it's called a descent. Okay? Ad laviola sagatinot katan, until the small child is capable of understanding it. Kanahar sholech, okay, umitmashech leorech. It's like the river that goes and continues, into a very long journey. Mashakosov ba'arichus, kebeksavim inyan orech hayiriya. Right, as it is explained in Chassidus in regards to the matter of the length of the heights. Okay, in the Mishkan. Va'omek uk omek anar. And what is omek? Omek is like the omek of the depth of the river. Shemisham mitrachev u'ba'atzmo eino rachav klal. That from there it widens out, but it's not wide at all. That's omek. Avalahu ikar etzem anar. But it is the ikar, the main point of the essence of the river. Nikra shtroim. And it's called shtroim. Shui ikar merutzat hilucho mimakoirei. Right? For it is the main strength, okay, of its flow from its source. So without omek, there is no river. But the omek is not wide. The omek is a point from where everything widens. Umayim shal gabav, gova. So now it's actually 4-dimensional, right? He talks about the gova now. Talks about the height of the river, right? So what is the height of the river? If you remember, for Reb Hillel, it took a long time. He did 2 circles of explaining this process until he introduced us to a gova, if you remember, right? And we all in the end were like, oh my gosh, why are you bringing this to us? This is so confusing, right? Because he first showed it to us in the 3-dimension, and then he added the 4th one, which is the gova. And the waters that are above the depth to its height, okay, well, it's the dei ha'omek tfalim elav, right? So these waters that are to the height and to the sides of its length are secondary to it. She'eino rag bechinas is gabrus v'ispashtusei bilvad. L'tzdadim l'rochav go orech v'luchay. Why are they secondary for it? But they only represent the spreading forth of its strength. What does this mean? When you look at the wide river, what does that indicate? As a very strong omek, is a very powerful omek. When you look at a shallow, short river, it shows that its omek, it's shallow and short. That's why it's not wide, and that's why it's not long. Yeah, does that make sense? So these are the indicators. They are secondary to the main thing. I likewise, the depth of the concept, the omega musak, is the aspect of its essential point. And as it is, this is what it's called, the depth of that which is comprehended. Omega musak. Shekol mashe nitpashet behezber ha'asoga l'chol tzad b'rochav godol become a pratim, right? That everything, what will be manifesting in an explanation and in the hasaga to every side, which is the rochav godol, become a pratim, right? The great width with few pratim with the details. V'chein la'orech, and also the length, ba'otzem ha'yirida, right? With the intense descent. Hu b'chinas v'gam b'chinas gova lemala, and also the height that goes all the way up. Lahaskil mimenu od lemala mimenu. What does this mean? That I'm able to comprehend from it something which is above it altogether. Harbe. All these beautiful advantages of having this river, they're all coming down, they're all being drawn out from the essence of the omek of that point. Right? From that point, this is the meeting point. If you remember, Omek HaMusik is this meeting point of Bina and Chochma, that this Chochma is being drawn down into the realm of Bina, right? It's coming, Chochma is Ayin, okay? And this Omek HaMusik is what draws us down. And we have a pasuk, but Nahar Yatsa Mi Eden, right? And the river came out from Eden. Eden represents Chochma. Okay, and Nahar, the river that comes from the Chochmah. Shahabina Nikra Nahar, V'achachma Nikra Ma'ayan. The Bina is the river, and the Chochmah is the wellspring, Kriyadua. That is it known. Now the apprentices. At the Bechinas Oimek Ram, right, until the aspect of high Omek Ram, right, the highest of Omek. His Gabrus Hamayim Lemala Mala, right, which is the strength of the water, right, is going up and up. Bezman Hamabel, in the time of the Mabel. Shekacha Yihi Eli Yemaisa Mashiach, that it will be the same in Yemaisa Mashiach, Baruch Nias, right? B'shnas Tafresh L'chai Noach, right? In the year of Tafresh, from the life of Noach, or Shekosu Bazar, how it is explained in the Zohar, V'itpatchu Mavu'ain the Chachma Chulu, right? That the well springs of Chachma are going to be, they will open. The Hainu Ma'ayonas Tahom, that this is going to be the well springs of the Tahom. Okay. HaChachma Shid Gabru Lemala Mala, that they will be strengthened to go all the way higher and higher. V'yichasu kol haharim, and they will cover all the mountains. Right? The mountains are being represented by Chochma and Bina. The language of a mountain is the Chochma and Bina. And the windows of the windows of oh my gosh, I'm missing my main neurotransmitter, which is my coffee, right? Okay, the windows of the heavens will open up. Okay, which is what? Lahamshich hamayim shemi ala shamayim. And we remember that, Rabbi Hillel, remember we had many questions about it. That's where he's getting it from. Right, to draw down the mayim, which is above the shamayim, right? The ruchnias shamayim. So basically what ends up happening, the waters from below, they meet the waters from above. That's what Mabul was. It was all water. There was no airspace, I guess, because the shamayim, the waters from above, also opened up, and now everything was water. So we are being spiritually flooded in Yemoisa Mashiach, right? Rebbe 30 years ago made a public announcement that we are in a stage of Yemoisa Mashiach, and we really feel that, right? Nobody feels flooded, which is called Omek Ram. So this is waters that are above the Shamayim, is called Omek Ram, is the highest Omek Ram. Shetoloi be'omek tachas, that is dependent on the Omek Tachas. Why is it? Because the beginning is wedged in the end. Kmo Omek. Okay. She'ela. Oh. Hagba lemala chulu, kmo shekosov b'chsavim, right? Because the beginning is bound up with the end. As in the verse, cast your question to the depth, or rise on it high. Okay.
Mila, can we just read that in the English, because was a lot of information.
Sure. Through the aspect of heights, one's understanding may reach all the way until the depth of the heights, like the overpowering of the waters in the time of the flood. Likewise, there will be a spiritual flood, which refers to the spreading forth of the teaching of Chassidus in the days of Mashiach. In the 600th year of the light of Noah, which is 5,600 year of the Jewish calendar, which refers to 1840 of the Common Era. This is as stated in the Zohar, that the well springs of wisdom will open. These are the springs of the depth of wisdom, which will overpower and rise up and will cover all the mountains. Then the reservoirs of the heavens shall open up, and they shall be drawn down, the waters that are above the heavens. This is called the depth of the heights, Omek Ram, which is dependent upon the depth below, Omek Tachas, because the beginning is bound up with the end. As in the verse, cast your question to the depth, or rise on it high.
So can I just ask a question? I mean, a technical question. In 1840, was approximately in the world of Gashmiut, it was the Industrial Revolution. What was happening in 1840 in Chassidus? Like, who was
the Rebbe then? That's a good question. Who was the Rebbe in 1840?
Oh, wait a minute. So 1812 was when the Alter Rebbe passed away.
So that's the Mittel Rebbe then.
Could it be the Mittel Rebbe? Wow. Mittel Rebbe, 1812. The Mittel Rebbe was very young when he passed away.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, that was also one of the concerns Hasidim had about him becoming the Rebbe.
I'm going to look up.
I think it's the Samach Tzedek. Was it the printing of the Torah or look at the Torah?
Right. It was Tzemach Tzedek already?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I remember hearing this.
Can I read what comes up in Chabad history in the year 1840?
Yeah, sure.
It's from AI. In Chabad history, the year 1840 is significant due to its connection with the messianic expectations and the beginning of a period of intense change and intellectual development. Some interpretations of Jewish texts, like the Zohar, suggested that 1840 would be a pivotal year, potentially marking the beginning of the messianic era. This year also coincided with the rise of scientific and technological advancements, which some saw as a manifestation of both upper waters, mysticism, I guess Chassidus, and lower waters, science, erupting, according to the Zohar. That's in 1840. That's an overview.
Yeah. So the
But
Mitzvah
what
Rebbe,
exactly, yeah, which Rebbe was,
Mitzvah Rebbe passed away in 1827.
Nathan Rebbe passed away in 1827?
Yeah.
So that was Tzemach Tzedek then, right?
Then it was the Tzemach Tzedek.
Yeah, 1827, right.
So that's Das. That's very interesting because Tzemach Tzedek represents Das. It says, Umla ha'aretz deyas Hashem. Right? The water will be covering the knowledge of God, the there. So it's interesting. So that's happened in the times of the Tzemach Tzedek. That's wow.
So the,
Actually, Torah was published in 1837.
what was published?
Torah R was published in 1837.
Interestingly, the Tzemach Tzedek passed away in 1866. So not so much.
Close the door, please. Step.
Remember the 11 years that there was no printing of Chassidus between Torah or and Likutei Torah, that they banned the printing of Chassidus, and then after 11 years, permission was given, and there was a massive flow, like when like 20 people are pushing on the door, and finally they open the door, and everything goes flying. So remember those 11 years between Torah and Likutei Torah?
Oh, yeah. So Likutei Torah was published 11 years later. I hear you. Yeah. But I don't remember.
So if this was Torah Or, then we're talking about, I think, we have to see what year Likutei Torah was published, and this would be in that interim where it's building and building and building. The pressure is building. Chassidus is being held back. If I have the timing right, in those 11 years, Chassidus is being held back in the most intense way. And then there's an enormous revelation when it's finally allowed, when Likutei Torah is printed. So if I got it right, I think it was Torah or then Likutei Torah. So then this would be in those pressure years where the internal pressure is building in a massive way, and there's no outward expression of Chassidus into the world.
By the way,
I have
this is-
dates if you want. Likutei Torah was first printed in 1848.
That's what she's saying. This 11-year span. 1837 was
11.
Torah, and
11.
1848
Torah Or was
years later was Likutei Torah.
no Torah Or was 1837.
Right. And
Right. And
1848, 11 years later, was Likutei Torah.
11 years. 11, yeah.
Picture you're living in the year 1840, and there's an internal pressure building up within the world itself. From above, there's an internal pressure because there's no outward expression. They're not allowed to print Chassidus. Period. According to Russian, it's illegal. And so there's no printing. You can imagine no Sfarim printed. Imagine the internal pressure that's being built up in Chassidus. Within itself, whatever it's doing, is it going more deeply inward? I don't know. But we're sitting at 1840, right in the center of this internal pressure that, you know, in 8 years is going to burst forth into the world through Likutei Torah. But 1840, we're sitting literally in the midst of that intense internal pressure.
Why was there a ban for 11 years? Who put the ban?
Russian government. That's why the moment, it's considered a moment of Geula. 1848, if you look at the Frierdiker Rebbe's in Sefer Sichas of the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe goes through 50-year periods. Every 50 years, there's this huge Gilui of the light of Mashiach, and this huge Gilui of Chassidus. 1848, 1648, and then 1698, the Baal Shem Tov, the Baal Shem Tov was born, I think, right, 1698, and then 1748, and then 1798, etc. Like every 50 years. So 1848 was one of those 50-year periods where it's like boom, 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 boom. Every 50 years there's something. So if we're talking about 1840, we're 8 years before this 50-year Kate is about to happen, and that Kate was considered Bias Mashiach. You know, there were those conversations between the Rebbeim. They said, "What do you want? Mashiach should come. What do you want? We have L'Kutei Torah. We had Mashiach. 1848, Mashiach came." And then the other Rebbe said, "No, I mean Begashmis." And they went back and forth in that conversation. We need Mashiach. We have Mashiach. It's called L'Kutei Torah. No. We need it more down here, down. Must have been between the Tzemach Tzedek and the Rebbe Maharash.
That's in the Hayom Yom, right? Right, also.
Probably, I don't know. I learned it by the Friedrich Rebbe Sefer Sichos.
Well, it seems like that was like it's a watershed in the process, but it was really just the beginning. Here we are, 150 something years later, and yeah.
I guess we at this point spoiled by the information back then, and see how the world looks different. The technology, the technological revolution, everything. It's just we're having, even with therapy, it's just changing with every. We don't need to wait 50 years anymore, Saratova. I think every 5 years, it's already like whatever you did 5 years ago, it's outdated.
Right.
Based on the scopes that as becoming closer and closer. Before we had to wait 50 years. It's like, what 50 years? 50 years is we didn't, if you check what happened the last 50 years, there were no computers 50 years ago. And look what we have now. Every little kid has this device that could call, another end of the world on the video call. If you would show to my grandmother, she would do witchcraft or something.
No, but I just want to finish my point. My point is, if the text has somehow directed us to being in the center of that moment in 1840, it's as if we're sitting in 1840 right now, because we're right now in this text. So it's an invitation from the Rebbeim for us to experience that deep internal pressure of not being able to express fully the truth into the world, which we have that problem. Not being able to express fully the truth into the world. We have it in many, many forms. And what that will do to us and what that was doing to the world and to Chassidus, we are being invited at this second to go deeply into that moment and that energy of the internal pressure building up and how that is transformative for us, that internal pressure. Not like, okay, but it all worked out, We're there again. So what do we do with that internal pressure, and how do we create it something that's incredibly powerfully positive and creates incredible growth in us and in the world? That's my thoughts, my question.
Yeah, I think you see, if tough year happened, what this prophecy is talking about from Zohar, we're already in the water. I don't think we you understand what I mean? After 150 years of this spiritual flood, okay, we should know how to swim already in it.
Well, yeah, but it's revealed. There's a process. It doesn't all come all at once.
No, I'm sure it doesn't come all at once, but
it's
I think
escalating, and it keeps escalating, and the speed keeps accelerating.
Right.
So we're definitely
an acceleration.
We are hurtling now.
In a
So
way,
I'm just going to say, I just want to say, I personally know what that internal pressure feels like of not being able to fully express yourself in the world. I assume everybody else does too. And the question is, it's very easy to turn it into frustration and annoyance and blah, 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 blah. And obviously it's designed for something incredibly geuludic to utilize that internal pressure, not just to be annoyed, why don't they, why don't I have more vessels and more, every shliach feels it. Every shliach feels it. Every chassid feels it, that internal pressure, but we're being invited to now utilize it in an incredibly geulidic way, instead of being frustrated and the government stops me from building the mikvah that my community needs, blah, 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 blah. To turn it into something unbelievable. That seems to be the invitation. That seems to be what hopefully we will learn in Shari Yichud, is how to translate what that internal pressure into something really incredible.
It's
Yeah,
not
but you
just internal pressure, it's
you
also
have to do Iyun in order to, that's
Right.
his whole point.
but also every unfolding of the flow of revelation is always met with a counter pressure from other forces trying to stop it. So we have to invest the internal pressure to make sure that we are graver over that.
It's
Definitely
interesting,
Iyun.
but the Rebbe is using a word, his gabrus.
Yeah, Iyun is for sure a lot of internal pressure.
Okay, so let's move weiter. But who nikra iyun, and it's called iyun. Okay, this process that triggers that unifications of the lower waters with the upper waters begins with iyun. She'omed al dvar hamuskal, that he stands on the things that he comprehends. Okay, ume'ayin b'harbe ma'od, right? And he really analyzes it a lot. Shuhu ha'ikuf, and that's what means flow, in-depth study. Hefech mihirus, the opposite of quick surface level of study. Okay? Dahainu g'dei lava lu'omkei shel hamuskal, moshuhu be'etzem pnimiyusoi v'toch toicha davka. The purpose of this is specifically to reach the depth of the concept as it is in its innermost essential point. Kmo shemistakel al dvar ma be'enai v'lo b'ha'avara ba'alma. This is, like a mashal is one who gazes his eyes upon a certain object, but not in a passing manner. We see that in art. When I was trying to learn how to draw, okay, this is, when you try to learn how to draw, you just don't understand how they put that on a paper. But one of the things that all painters need to do is whatever object they're drawing, they need to look at it. They need to see so many details in order to be able to produce it on a piece of paper. And it's a lot of details. It's like virtually impossible to draw something without the histaklos. Okay, Ella bepikuach v'tvias einoi be'ikuv gadol. Right, and rather he keeps his eye upon it with a great attention and scrutiny. Ad sheyodea ota heitev b'chol chelkov hapnimim v'toch tocha. Right, taking his time until he knows it well in all its internal and innermost components. Who nikra his boinanus, and this is what his boinanus is. Benun hakafel dafka, with a double nun. Dahainu shemizboinen umeayin baharbe, which means that he does extensive his boinanus. Kmo shebepirush Rashi, right? As we see in the Pirush Rashi, be'iyune, what Rashi says be'iyune, la'amod ala davar lahavino al buryo, right? Which means to stand upon the subject, to understand it clearly. So now this iyun, interestingly, right? This iyun becomes like a receptacle, like a keli for the delving of bina itself. Doesn't ring a bell for you? It does. Remember, Haley, right? Chapter 2. So Iyun builds your Keli. Okay. It says it right here. We could appreciate it after the second chapter because we know making of the Keli is in Tvuna, right? Through my mind being obsessed with a concept, going over it over and over, studying it all its details and moving back and forth and back and all that, all my mental activity that happens during that time creates my neural pathways for that subject. And that concept gets registered in my brain, becomes tvuna, becomes a keli for my further bina analysis. Okay, so it becomes like a keli for my bina. And it all starts with Iyun, right? That's the whole mode of the chapter 2 to explain us how the bina of how Iyun brings us to tvuna, right? The first chapter, how Iyun brings us to highest of high. Now, the second chapter has how to bring us to lowest of low in our own body where it's imprinted, not in our neshama, loftiest level of, primus likudas alev, but how that is actually happens in my body. And it's also down through Iyun. And here is that sentence, right? V'ninza b'chinas Iyun hazeh rak b'chinas kli leb'chinas ha'amaka de bina atzma. So now the Rebbe is like kind of talks about myths, right? That truly, he said, right, it's seemingly that the word Iyun refers to Amakasadas in the lashon of the world. It says ve'enochein, and it's not like that. So here the Rebbe actually distinguishes between Amakasadas and Iyun. The Hamakas Hadas hainu b'chinas kli levad. Hamakas Hadas, it's only a kli. Lavo le'omek shel ha'inyan mamish, to come to the omek of that thing. So you see, so das is only kind of neurotransmitter in a way. It's not the thing itself. It only carries you there. It's a shuttle that brings you to the depth of the thing that you want to reach. V'lamalam is a nikra ma'amik, and above it, it's called ma'amik. Shemagia lemala gamina chochma atzma. That ma'amik, we all know, that brings us to a place we're even higher than the chochma. Shegam sha'chochma b'chinas ayin mamish shel muskel. That although the chochma is ayin, mamish ayin of that muskel, kodem sheba klal omek nekudas hamusik. Like before it comes to the depth of the nekuda of the musik, right? There's a difference between Chachma and between Omek Amusik of the Bina. Okay, Kama'ayan the Gabe Nahar, like the wellspring compared to the river. Aval Bechinas Amaka Bashara Shalamuskel, but the level of the Hamaka in the source of the muskel, which is Chachma, Shar Shemagia Basharish Hamamshich Lenevias Ma'ayan the Chachma, right? Its root comes to the root that brings about the revelation of the Ma'ayan of the Chachma, which is called Amkei Chachma, right? They're called the depths of Chachma, or Ta'alumas Chachma, or this another word for it, the hiddenness of the Chachma. Kikmo sheyesh omek be'orech be'rochav be'bina, hanikra yesh, kach yesh omek orech be'rochav be'ma'ayan ha'chachma hanikra ayin. So the same way how we have these 3 dimensions of the Bina, we also have these 3 dimensions of the Chachma. Okay, but you could see here clearly how the Rebbe takes you into this path, right? And why Reb Hillel had to stop here to pause and give us all the background information. So when we go over this, we don't feel like, what are you talking about? Okay, but he actually spells out all the levels in between. Okay, everybody's still up. Wow, we have 12 people here. That's great. Okay, the omek hama'ayan, right? The omek of the ma'ayan, hainu, chilat shoresh machtzavo ba'omko, right? Which is the depth of the ma'ayan, which is the beginning of the source from where it's being chiseled out of its depths, right? Inception, of its inception. That's a very fancy word, of its inceptions at its very depth. Okay, shemeshamesh, right? That is being served. Shemit pashet, I'm sorry, that's being spread out. Nevi'ato lemala ad shebakeya v'yoytze tipin tipin begilui me'almo. Right? When we're talking about that depth over here, he doesn't spell it out like that, but this is the aquifer we're talking about, right? That from there it's being drawn out, this nevia, this spreading out, okay, all the way up until it breaks forth and goes out, burst forth, right? For the earth, a tipin tipin, drop by drop, begilu me'almon, right? In the gilu, from its concealment. But tachlis ha'almai hu tachlis omkei lamata, right? And in the wellspring, the whole point of his concealment, that's how it actually comes out from its depth here down below, right, through the veins. Right, like the ma'ayonis, the well springs of the tahom opened up. The ara b'chalule mechalala, right? They went forth and okay, for the earth is riddled with fuses, right? With his veins. Okay, begidin sheyesh lahem omek rishon, right? Through the veins that they have that primary depth. Ubezena emar v'chochma mi'ayin, v'chochma mi'ayin, right? And from this it says v'chochma mi'ayin. What ayin? Because it's concealed. The fact that it was concealed, that's why we call it ayin. Meaning ayin, we don't see it. Okay, me'alam ha'chochma ha'nikra omek ha'chochma, right? This concealment of the chochma, which is called the depth of chochma. V'chochma hamtza'at sechel chadash, and the chochma is the new sechel, right? So where this new sechel is coming from? Coming from koch hamaskil. And what is koch hamaskil? Koch hamaskil is this depth of chochma, where anything could come out. And when from that anything could come out, something new actually comes out, that's already chochma, okay? That it's coming out of the new seichel, sheyatza kavarak hayadua, chulu kayadua, like that comes out like a lightning as it is known. She'eino rak ha'omek shel hasaga debina amurgash b'bchinas yesh b'havanas dvar ma v'zvar nigris. That this right. Okay. So the chachma is the discovery of this new insight, which emerges like a bolt of lightning, as known. The source of its interception, it is hidden depth in the innermost essence. This is similar to the previous explanations of the depth of the comprehended concept omek hamusag. However, that was only in regard to the depth of the comprehension of Bina, which is felt in a tangible way, which is revealed explanation. The depth of this explanation, right, of the concept is only the aspect of the nothingness of the something. Thank you. Ve'ein lo erech legabe ayin de chachma, right? And that ayin of this bina, you can compare it to the ayin of the chachma. Terem sheba leklal hasaga. right? The minute it becomes part of the hasaga, part of the understanding. Because why he's saying that? Because when something becomes already tangible in my mind, that's going through my kalim, right? It already loses its pure revelation, the way it is, right? It has to come through my understanding, through my views, because this is my conscious mind, and my conscious mind was programmed to be in a particular way, right? When we are talking about when it's a revelation of the Chachma is more connected to the source, to the way the concept is in its source. Why? Because it's, revealed as is, without yet my interpretation of my brain. Okay. And this Omek HaMusag is a Tamtzitan, right? This is, therefore, its depth, right, which is the essential point, is no comparison to the nothingness of Chokhmah before it comes into the category of comprehension altogether. Okay, for that reason. Why? Because that's already being intercepted by my perceptions. And therefore, my revelations of my Bina, have that, and by two people, they understand different things. Why? Because they have different experiences, but it was still the same Chachma. Okay, so therefore, why Iyun is called Makom HaBirur is because through our analysis, we are kind of training our brain to see the truth of the concept beyond our limited perception. Okay, I hope I'm not, I know it's a fast day, and for some of you, it's already quite late at night, so I don't want to put you to sleep. Okay, by the way, do you know why people go to sleep? Why sometimes it happened to me all the time, and it continues happening to me on some occasions, where after studying like a very intense Chassidus, you fall asleep. Do you know why it happens? I just recently learned. Because when a person's vibration is not matching the vibration of whatever he is studying, the mind just shuts down because it can't derive energy from it. Yeah, that's why we also have some instances. I don't know who was it. One of the Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov, every time Baal Shem Tov would say Chassidus, he would fall asleep. Because for the brain, it becomes a little bit too much. The vibration is a very subtle thing. It's high vibrations. It's like, ooh, it's like, then you're like, okay, that's it. That's only what I could intercept. And that's about it.
Mila, would you say that, would you say that in the last few paragraphs here, do you understand something in addition to what Reb Hillel taught us about all of this? Or would you say...
Yeah, because he's giving us a general cloud. I don't think Reb Hillel, for example, about this, right? Reb Hillel really did not make a point of objective versus subjective truth of the concept, right? Meaning subjective truth of the concept would be my Bina. Objective is the Chachma, right? So how this two concepts reconcile in our brain depends on the avoida of my Bina. That's why Bina is essential. Bina is so essential that if a person does not refine the Bina, they could study Chassidus today till tomorrow. They will not be benefiting from it. Why? Well, they're going to benefit from some level, but our Bina is our conscious mind. Okay, so a conscious mind is formed based on experiences we had in our life. If we just accept it and as you mentioned earlier during our meeting, just be on the rochav without refining to the omek. Because Bina of Bina is supposed to bring us to the Omek HaMusag, right? The Omek HaMusag is what's the difference between the Chachma and the Omek HaMusag? Omek HaMusag is that how my brain shaped itself to understand the truth of the concept to the best way possible. You understand? And the Chachma is the truth itself. So you cannot come to Omek HaMusag without a work. That's why Omek HaMusag is Shar Nun of Bina, right? Shar Nun of Bina is like, wow, it's, you could, I guess, ask ChatGPT what Shar Nun Bina, AI or whatever tools you use. Shar Nun of Bina is like where a person's paradigm pops, basically. We all live in a paradigm, okay? We all think what we understand is our ultimate truth. It's not true. It's our subjective truth, okay? Shar Nun Bina is that when that bubble that we think is truth on all 49 gates literally pops. And then we are actually experiencing the real truth the way that concept is brought down through Chachma. Okay, so Shar Nun of Bina is essential point where we transcend our own limitation. Somebody's awake. Okay.
He makes the point there that even that.
What is that?
Can you repeat the last sentence?
I said, Shar. I don't remember. You have to understand I'm without my neurotransmitters.
We're all a little bit.
No, Mila, it was very, very good. And we'll hear it again on the recording. No, it was excellent. Amash. Thank you.
So Shar Nun Bina is when we transcend our own limitation of understanding of that concept. And that will happen only when we do Eon. Because the whole first chapter is drilling. Eon comes, Eon, which is Orech, brings you to Omek. You cannot go to Omek without the Eon. Okay? So you could only transcend your own limitation where you allow it to happen. How will you allow it to happen? You look at these letters and you go over them. The Rebbe is going to brainwash you, basically, right? It's going to wash your brain from what? From your own limited beliefs, your own limited thoughts, your own limited perceptions, right? It's going to do that again and again. All of a sudden, boom. The Shar Nun Bina is Omek HaMusag, right? And Shar Nun Bina is a very, very powerful place to be. I think all tzaddikim are aiming for that. All of us, it's like, this is where, like, you're no longer suffocating in your own limited perception. This is beautiful. It's a beautiful place.
But he's making a disclaimer that you can't compare the depth of the Emek HaMusag of Bina to the Ayin of Chachma.
It's true, because there's still a difference.
Right. He's saying that for make sure that we don't minimize.
Exactly. And who is going to be that shuttle that will take me from Omek HaMusag? That's going to be a little test. We just read it. Who's going to be that shuttle that's going to take me from my Omek HaMusag to my Chachma?
Hamakas Hadas.
Beautiful. Yeah. Hamakas Hadas. Hamakas Hadas is going to be the one that I'm going to be so connected to the concept by that time, okay, that the gap between Omek HaMusag and Chachma is going to be at no time.
So what he's saying with that last sentence is, don't forget the shuttle.
Yes, Hamakas Hadas is that shuttle that will take me there. Oh, he's talking about Shar Nun Bina. Okay, whatever. Let's go. Let's go. Okay. V'emnam Omek HaMusag nikra Shar Nun Bina, right? Wow, was totally intuitive. I did not read this before, but that's great. Okay, the Omek HaMusag nikra, the 50th gate of Bina. Okay, v'gam shenyimshach mi'ayin dechachma leyesh. Right, gam shenyimshach, that although it comes down from the ayin of chachma into yesh, right? Shor shemagia be'omek dechachma kanal. Wow, its source is coming. Its root is coming to the omek of chachma, right? So wow, so that's why. That's, I guess, Gitti explains, to your, 1 second, let me just close it, right? Explains your question, right? This 58 of Bina is actually taking me to the omek of my chokhmah, right?
It must.
It must, exactly. Keshenikra b'chush sechel ma'amik. I'm sorry. V'nikra b'chush shekol ma'amik rak ba'omek hamusag, right? That everybody who deepened themselves only in the omek hamusag, who mamtzi lemakor v'shoresh hamuskal, right? He's able. What is mamtzi?
Find.
The hamtzi means to bring out something from nothing, to invent something, or to discover.
It is clearly observable that delving specifically into the depth of the Omek HaMusar will bring one to the source and roots of the concept, thus enabling him to bring new light of Chachma into Vina. This then is what is called ma'amik, delving, which is the active verb, for he is activating the depth of Chachma and Bina. Okay. להמציא בחינס חדש is bar Chachma and Bina. Okay, והוא נקרא מעמיק לשון מפעיל, שמפעיל בעומק חכמה and Bina. So he's adding an interesting perspective into the importance of coming to Omek HaMusar and also delving in the Omek HaMusar. Right, so Omek HaMusar is like this. That's why it's called gate of Chachma. I'm sorry, gate of Bina. Sha'ar Nun the Bina. It's like a gateway through which you could pass through higher realms. Apprentices of the Mittel Rebbe, right? Mo ma'ayan yotze mi beit kodesh hakadoshim tchilosei. Okay, I guess that's one. If you noticed, I don't know if you paid attention to it, but he says over here, like, the Ma'ayan flows tipin, drop by drop. It actually raises a lot of questions to me, and I never got a clear answer from anybody about it. If it drop by drop, how you get a river out of drop by drop? It says over here, like in Yoma, right? A spring will flow out of the chambers of the Holy of Holiness. It begins, its beginning will be like Chagovim, right? And it, whatever, I don't know, I can't pronounce it, right? Like a little thingy of the grasshoppers. Okay.
Where
and it will then widen into the expanse of a river. And I just can't envision how that's gonna happen.
Are you looking back?
Yeah, I'm looking back. This was the apprentices of the Mittel Rebbe before, where he was talking about the Ma'ayan being tippin. I just came across this, as I was scrolling down. And no, nobody has a question about it. We're not talking about 50th gate. We're just going back a little bit.
It's he says it's a footnote on that the Omek of Bina is drawn from Ayin.
Yeah, and it's coming like a drop by drop. He uses the word tippin.
But that's just how it starts. But then it flows much more. It expands into a greater flow.
How is it possible? I'm just practically speaking. If I'm gonna just take something and I'm gonna press drop by drop, how is it gonna turn into a river? I just don't get it.
So he's commenting on Yesh Mi'ayin, which is a mystery. How can a river? I mean, it's even a question. At what point is it a river? The ayin of Chochmah is so nothing. How does it become a river? And that's
that's my basic meaning. Like if it's used over here, like Karne Chagavim, this is like this very thin thing. And the river, it's a prophecy, right? That the river is gonna come out from Kodesh HaKadoshim like that, and it's gonna turn into a big river and flow. How is it turning into big rivers? Just like one thing, you like flowing so slowly, drop by drop. How is it turning into a river? Doesn't make sense, right? We
If you
look
look at-
now,
Sorry.
Mayan, you look at the wellspring, it flows force. Anybody saw real well springs? Like, yeah, that I understand turns into a river, 100%. But like this
Sorry,
drop
is
turns
the
into a
river,
river.
the river, is it a metaphor for Bina? Is
Yeah.
is it? Yes. So, okay. So Bina, it's visually illustrating what Bina does to Chachma, with Chachma, right?
Yeah.
That
I'm
it,
more into Gashmias aspect of it. And the
yeah,
concept, yeah, I understand how something
Chachma
small,
is a nikuda, and Bina Chachma is a drop, and Bina is a river.
yeah, but how you get to the river from the drop? That's my question.
Well, like in
Where's that
Noach's Mabul,
transition?
drop by drop, it started with drops. Maybe there's an analogy there.
I'm also thinking, how does a rainstorm begin? A deluge where you're soaking wet. First, it comes just a few drops, and it's coming from the same clouds. So first, it's the few drops that tell you that there's water coming, and then there's the big, the big gust.
Flow. So basically you're saying, Gitti, it comes tipping, like Karne Achagovim, and then it's going to flood.
That means like you're striking gold. Yes, that something's there, and then right. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
I said, okay, maybe. I mean, I don't know. This is just like a rhetoric question that I have in mind.
And also, when you're bringing that parenthesis, that thing on page 19, it says it will begin like the antennae of a grasshopper, and it will widen
it's on
the paths of a river. So it begins like that, but then it becomes bigger.
I like the and that if you think about like what are the antennae of a grasshopper?
Not very big. That's all I know, like 2 drops,
But if you think about it, it doesn't matter how big they are, but what do they do?
Why is he using grasshopper here, you mean?
No, why? Okay, grasshopper to begin with. I like that it's kosher, but it's the smallest kosher, but antenna are not eyes. Antenna are like a combination. I'm making it up a little bit.
Senses.
They're receivers.
Something, and it's picking up energy. It's like eyes, it's energy, it's somewhere between hearing and seeing.
I think you have to look up in Yuma and see what it talks about, what it discusses about this antenna of a grasshopper, how it came up with it.
And I think you do see, Mila, if you think about the Eon process, it's like it takes so long and it's so frustrating and you feel like you're digging and digging, and then suddenly there's like out of just nothing, suddenly there's a flood, right? Like suddenly you break through and you start to sense things. And I think also it says, like the Keref Ayin.
Right.
It's all these similar kinds of things that we think that it is. It's showing like something miraculous. I want to look up what antenna do.
I looked up the antenna of a grasshopper, I'm now trying to see if they'll give me information on Yuma. So they're long, the antennae of a grasshopper, long, segmented, and thread-like appendages extending from the head, used for a variety of functions. Okay, they're like sensors, and they help the grasshopper sense its environment, and that's what the antenna idea.
It says here, touch, smell, and sometimes sound.
And the prophecy, what they're suggesting in AUI, which I'm not sure I'm going to take, as the last safe pasuk, but it's a miraculous stream originating from the Kodesh Kodashim, begins as a small trickle and expands into a mighty river. And that this river may flow towards the Mediterranean Sea and sweeten its waters, making them potable. And their imagery of the grasshopper antennae, although initially small and seemingly insignificant, emphasize the miraculous and expansive nature of this divine blessing. Just as the seemingly delicate antenna can sense and guide the grasshopper, so too, this is interesting, so too will the small stream grow into a powerful force, touching and transforming everything in its path.
Very nice. Wow.
Yeah, the last paragraph is really nice. That whole, yeah, it seems insignificant in the beginning, and then it just taps into something and it grows into a powerful force and it transforms everything.
Yeah, I don't know if this just it popped into my head when Kitty said that, like subconsciously, was that then we have to build dams or channels to channel the water force.
It's almost like it takes on a power of its own.
I mean, that's also the reason why we need to build a kalim of the Eon. That's why there's a concealment, because if that is going to be revealed to unprepared mind, a person probably gonna go cuckoo. Okay,
So that's what you're only suggesting, I think, when you say like you have to have proper, your kalim needs to be ready. I mean, if you think about it, you know,
right,
it's something like the internet. The internet is like a flood of information, and if you don't have proper kalim, you can get completely, you can have shvirata kalim, because you don't know where to look and what to take and what's, you know, you can get really, you can drown.
That's why Eon is the key. That's why you begin with Eon, and by building your Eon is going to create your Keli, your Tuvuna. So when the revelation is taking place, you have the right circuitry, so you don't gonna go nuts.
Yeah.
You have the right circuitry in place to receive the light, to receive that flood. It's like probably, you know, you're creating the dam and channeling the energy before the water comes in. So when the water comes in, it goes into the right channels.
Now, what is mimic? Is it, we discussed this. It's over here, it looks like, is it a verb or is it, what's Neria, what's the name of a word that's descriptive, but it's not a verb?
Adjective.
Adjective. Adjective.
Adverb.
An adverb, probably, right?
That describes the verb. It's not really an adverb.
It's a
Girundi.
Well,
it's like a building.
So, because what is mimic? Mimic is called here delving. So, what is delving? An adverb?
Yeah, mimic. Isn't what we're supposed to be learning about, basically.
Page 7, that stickle over there.
Mimic delving. It gets so complicated that it's actually ridiculous.
Miriam.
The frustration is really around the complexity and the kind of simplicity that is trying to be communicated, and I don't know why it always has to be so complicated. You know, if we were, I mean, I'm far from knowing, well, hardly internalizing what we're doing, but, you know, just reading, picking up bits and pieces, like the ma'amik, the delving, and I write notes as I go along here, and it's the result of the delving brings the new light of Chokhmah, the insight into Bina, and which then becomes like tangible comprehension. I mean, that's how I've written it in my words. But of course, it could be totally wrong or far more complicated than that. I don't know. Excuse me
But
for the moment.
is this mind? If Hamakas Hadas is a shuttle, but it's also an act that we do, it's part of Iyun, right? Part of Iyun is going into Hamakas Hadas that takes us higher, and then higher than that, they have the mimics, but mimic is also action of work.
Hamakas Hadas, he doesn't say that it's an action. Hamakas Hadas is our connection to a chokhmah, right? Ma'amik, it's something different. Ma'amik, it's more, I don't know if it's delving. I think Hamakas Hadas is more delving. Ma'amik, it's activating.
But here he calls it delving, but it's not that, it's no, so, you know, Torah's Moshe.
The translation.
Yeah.
Ma'amik, it says maf'il. Maf'il is activating. I'm causing something to happen. I'm causing the release from the shorish, the omek of Chochmah and Bina. He uses that expression. It's like amik, you know, to cause Chochmah and Bina, to release
Is
the
delving
omek of Chochmah and Bina.
Is delving not turned into an activator?
Because you see, when I'm delving, I may not necessarily activate. I'm just delving, and I think that's where, you know, Miriam, you know, she was expressing that like frustration. It's like, I'm like delving. Delving is like, it's like, you know, this nuji process is like activating. It's a little bit more uplifting energy.
Can you explain?
I'm a master
How
of
do you
it.
activate?
Well, Mila, look, if we go back to chapter 1, I think that the difference for me between Reb Hillel and the Mitzvah Rebbe is that Reb Hillel created a very, very detailed structure for us to understand. And in paragraph like 10, 11, or 12, somewhere like that in paragraph 1, he described these two aspects of Dat as Amakas Hadas and Maimek. And he says Amakas Hadas is between Chochmah and Bina. And Maimek is what is the Dat that activates the Koach HaMaskil to give forth into Chochmah, from the Koach HaMaskil into Chochmah. So why are we asking this question now? It's something that we dealt with.
What did you? Oh,
They want to see it in a text. That's what it is. I think the question is here. This information we know. We just see how the Mitzvah Rebbe is bringing about.
1 second, Neri. I'm doing this the second time today, but Neri, what's the last thing you said about what the Hillel said about Hamakas Hadas?
So this is my point, is that if we go back to what we know, or if we don't remember what we already learned, they're two different things. And so that's where I think the confusion is coming in, is if you don't remember what we learned, meaning we don't remember what is Amakas Hadas and what is Maimek according to Reb Hillel, then we just muddying the water here.
Okay, but just reminded us, right?
Wait. I want to know, do you remember what Reb Hillel said about Hamakas Hadas and Maimek? And if not, we're just making muddy water here rather than doing something that's clarifying. And I think that's also maybe why, you know, Miriam might be getting confused. Because I think, Miriam, you know what Reb Hillel says, because you studied it well. So then, if we're just making confusion here because we're looking at the English or whatever it is, first, we studied Reb Hillel. I'm sorry, I'm being a little bit like a school mom here. But I really say, if we don't remember what we learned, then we can't come to this and get clarity. We can only get confusion. And then there's not much point in looking at the Mitzvah Rebbe, because he is more confusing. So we come to it only when we remember and know what we learned.
You mean if we
And
remember
that's actually
Gitty, if you can tell me how Reb Hillel explained these two concepts to us, then you can come and ask questions.
You mean like if you remember the terminology?
So if you remember exactly what he explained to you there, what is Amakasadat and what is Maimek? Explain that, and then you can start asking questions on the Middle River.
It's a conduit. Hamakasadas was a conduit. That's what I remember.
Well, conduit from where to where?
It takes you from the lower up to the higher.
What's lower and what's higher?
The lower was like using das to go from the bottom of Bina, let's say, and traveling up into even past Chachma, above Chachma.
No, it's not what he said. He said something very, very, very direct and very simple. And you're making something, I'm sorry to say, but you're making something very derech klal that he didn't say, and he was very specific, and he said it over and over again in one particular paragraph.
I beseech you, can you tell us what he said?
It's paragraph, I think it's paragraph 11, where he describes Amakasadas.
Paragraph 13 and 14, maybe?
No, paragraph 11. Let me check one second, and I can tell you.
It steps up into the essence of pure Chachma, not its application, and not how it's applied to one specific area. That's Hamakasadas. It schleps you up. Page Kuf Nun Daled, maybe.
Kitty, I'm going to suggest that if you try to learn it in English, you will be confused. You should be learning it in Hebrew, and it will be very simple for you. If you try the English, you will muddy the water.
Anyway,
if you didn't know Hebrew, I would say do the English. For you, it will confuse you if you do the English.
To do both languages, I think each one sheds light. I mean, no, the text is the text, obviously, but I think the English always adds. It's good. I think
there's literally one line where the Hillel says it.
Well, I don't have
access to the source read that.
Now. I don't have.
Right. If there's a way, Nuria, could you show us a photo of that line?
It's a paragraph.
Wait, actually, I have the Sefer here.
It's Reb Hillel,
1 second.
Chapter 1, paragraph 11.
It's 11?
It's 11.
Oh. What was I seeing in 13?
Something different.
Right, so I have to open up, you mean the drive and find paragraph 11. It's going to take a little time.
Is this a paragraph that starts with the Hine Kolonel who milamayla lamata b'chachma? Is that paragraph?
That's paragraph 10.
10?
It's paragraph.
V'nimsa b'chinas ha'iyun hazeh? B'chinas Aimek HaMusag, that paragraph?
It starts by saying there are three aspects, which is Iyun Amakasadas.
Okay, Hine Yesh Gimel b'chinas Iyun v'Amakasadas. Right. Okay, I'm going to look at it.
So if you look there, so then he gives clarity, and then we can see, but if we're coming without that clarity, we're just making muddied water.
So what page would that be?
Kuf Nun Gimel. So sorry.
Oh yeah, Kuf Nun Gimel, okay.
The question is, we're trying to figure out Maimek or Hamakasadas, which one?
Both. Well, and they're both connected.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's three words. Yeah.
Activate, you're saying.
Activates to where? Where does it take you to? It takes you from where to where? It's in those four words.
But what do you think? I mean, let's think about it. We're going really into, what do you think Omek of Chachma is?
In the simple sense, where does it come from? In general, all the concepts.
Fine, exactly. But this is, you see, we need to, in order for us to move forward in a qualitative way, we need to be familiar with the past information, because this is our stepping stone. Because how we build our consciousness is that we learn one thing, we step on it, and if it's firm, if it's not just like something that cannot hold our weight, and then we just like bloom back to the beginning. No, it has to be in a very firm and concrete way. That's why the essence will be revealed in Bina, okay, not in Chachma, in real concrete way, right? So we need to take this building blocks of how we build ourselves in our mind. So when we have to be very clear what is Omek of Chachma.
You know, if I look at this
mashal, look at the mashal. Remember the mashal? There is aquifer, there is gidim, and then there is mayan. Okay, so the aquifer is what? Is koach hamaskil. Gidim is chochma stima, is a hidden chochma. Ma'ayan is chochma gluya. That's how you see. I wasn't looking at any book, right? You need to have this knowledge just at a fraction, as a point of reference. Then you'll be able to
repeat that. Please repeat that, but just a little slower about the Mayan. I'm just trigger our memory. Thank you very much.
Gitty, the whole point is that is such basic chapter 1 that if Mila has to repeat that, there's no way to go. We talk about Iyun, you know, that's like basic. We talk about Bina of Bina is just knowing the information, not even Rochav of Bina, like just knowing the Pshat. It's like, you know, whatever you know, with any kind of learning, you can't build, unless you know the Pshat of Chumash, you can't build on it. So the same is with a text like this. If you don't know the Pshat, you can't build on it. And we all want something really, you know, deep and profound. And we've been learning this for nearly 2 years. And even the Pshat we don't know.
Anyway, so the Omek of Chochma, right? What Omek of Chochma brings? When we know what Omek of Chochma brings, when we know what Omek of Bina brings, then the word activation makes sense to us because we know what it activates. So very, very, very basic. If I am Bina, my goal, my department is to understand this concept. Right? My relationship with Chachma is a concept. I am the explanation of this concept. If I am, you know, now engaging with Chachma in order to bring, right? So my Omek would be to bring Chidushim into this concept, a new explanation into this concept. That's going to be my Omek. But if I am Chachma, my Omek would be to bring a new concept into this. Yeah, you see that? There's a difference. Meaning, I'm bringing a new Chidush into existing concept, that Omek of Bina. Omek of Chachma, I'm bringing a totally new concept into this world. Right, so later on, Rabbi Hillel, and also here, you know, they'll make a yichud that Chachma and Bina truly coming from the same source. Why do you think this is essential? Why who cares, truly? Like, why I need to know that Bina Taka also rooted in where the Chachma is rooted. Why it cannot be that Bina is a byproduct of Chachma? Why is it so essential for us to know? Well, it is very essential for us to know because the main mitzvah is given with Shema. So he has to prove us how Shema will get me to my source without having the relationship with Chachma. Okay. You get
Without having a covert
relationship with Chachma, yes.
If
If I am just byproduct of Chachma, I don't have anything on my own. Okay. I'm nothing. I'm only explaining you. You are my light. Okay, and that's it. Hashem created such a complex system where, yeah, it's true that Bina comes from Chachma. Bina explains Chachma. However, Bina has her own track of truth. She has her own way to the depth. to the same source and even higher. And then he goes through in chapter 1 through this whole ishtalshalus of Chokhmah and the whole ishtalshalus of Bina, and there he proves us how Bina is higher than Chokhmah. That's why the mitzvah of Shema is given with the word Shema, which is refers to Bina. Mitzvah Yedias Elokus, it's not even given with Das. It's given with Shema. Because not everybody is Baal Das. What if a person doesn't have Das? The Rebbe says, don't worry. You don't have Das, don't care. Do your Iyun. You'll get Das, you'll get Chachma, you'll be Amakasav Das, you're going to have Mamik, you're going to get all of it. I'm giving you up. Hashem is not going to create a mitzvah that only special people could have. Hashem is giving us the tool that accessible to anybody. I mean, unless a person is in the gather of Meshugana, so then he's potter of mitzvahs, and therefore he's potter of mitzvahs of Shema as well. We're not talking about these people. We're talking about normal people who still keep mitzvahs. So the mitzvahs of Yedias Elokus is given to somebody with the Bina. Why? Because not everybody is on the level of Das. You need to get to that shuttle. You need to get to that place. And the Iyun is going to bring you there. Okay, the Iyun is going to help you get to Omek HaMusak. From Omek HaMusak, you'll be able to get the shuttle to Chokhmah to do what? To bring new concept, not new ideas, new insight into the same Chokhmah. And at the same time, go higher and get you to Omek of your Chokhmah, which is to bring a totally new concept into your Chokhmah. And he uses that expression, be'ilui achar ilui, right? Higher and higher. Okay, to activate your Bina of Bina Liba. Okay, and you're also going to have Oneg there and Ratzon and the whole package. Meaning, Iyun is going to get you to the full package thing. And moreover, the chapter 2 says, oh, you were happy that you're going to get to your Bina of Bina. I have a bonus for you. That in your process of Iyun, you're actually going to get to your Tvuna. You're not just going to go cuckoo. You have to have Kalim. You have to have Kalim Gemurim for this light to descend. And how are you going to do that? Through your Iyun. Iyun will create your Tvuna. Okay, and you're going to have rain, and you're going to have this lofty revelations and not lose it. They're not going to be strange. Okay, and going to be very worldly. And use this information for how to cook your cholent. And everybody's going to love it. Because they're going to sense the truth of your Iyun in your cholent.
Thank you very much. That was very beautiful. I just want to, I'm back to the Hamakas Hadath, where here Taka uses the word maf'il. In the text we're looking at today, he says it's a keli, right? He says it's this is only a vessel. Ukli levad. So it's not calling, so a kli is a thing. It's not a verb. And what's a maf'il? Also a thing?
No, maf'il is a power to activate.
It's not a
activation.
thing. Power is not a thing. It's a power.
No, it's not.
But here he's calling it a kli, which can also, who says if the vessel.
What do you mean it's a kli? Can you read me the words?
It's also a power. In other words, the vessel is a power.
No, because the vessels bring something to revelation. That's a definition of the vessel. The vessel,
right?
It's not like a thing the way we understand things, right?
It's not a physical thing, right? It's like sphere is also a vessel, and it's not a
exactly
thing.
It's through which that energy gets revealed to a person that would be on the level of Rochav, and to somebody else on the level of Orech.
It's almost like you could say maybe a construct.
Exactly. For example, what is a thought? A thought, a conscious thought.
By the way, I didn't say thought. You heard that I didn't.
No, I'm bringing you an example of a thought, because a thought is a keli. A thought is a keli, but not gomer.
Right.
Yet, but it's still a keli. Right? A thought is a keli, through which the energy of that seichel gets revealed first to me, and then I speak it out. And my speech is a vessel for that seichel, for my thought, to reveal it to others. Okay, I first have to reveal something to myself in order to reveal it to others, right? So we see that, I mean, and the last days Tanya's talk about that as well at
Oh
length,
my
right?
goodness,
It's like,
you're right. Had a mind. I wanted to check this out with you. There's something there that was so confusing to me. I don't know, we're in the middle of something. I don't know if like you want to even hear about this. I underlined something.
yeah, so last days Tanya talk at length about this whole yud and the hey and what for self and what for others and all that whole process.
I don't know if you want to take time now, but I had this question. I could do it afterwards.
Yeah, so maybe we could, Nuria, what do you think? We'll conclude, and whoever wants to hang out for questions, they could. So this way, we're not going to hold everybody. I'm sure it's quite tiring. And I think somebody can already break the fast, no? At least in South Africa, I heard that the fast ends at 5:30. I was so happy for you guys. By us, it's 9 o'clock.
Have us in mind when you eat.
I had 5:42, but then I looked it up in two other places. One says 5:50, the other one says 6. My Zmanim says 6 o'clock. I'm sure they're different opinions, but I'm going to hold out till 6.
I think at that point, it's not so hard already once you get there.
We got about 4 minutes.
And so what are we summing up from what we learned today? What are we finishing with? What's the last point?
We're finishing. We need to do a lot of Eon on what we already know.
So Neria, I have to say, the truth is, yes, I have it hopefully on the level of this Yashvus, not on the level of Klita. And the truth is that spring, I was always holding it up. I said, I'm really not swimming in that stream. I'm not swimming. I'm not a professional swimmer in that stream, spring, the whole analogy. I don't have it in the level of Klita. I would love to.
So first of all, Giti, I wanted to say I apologize. I just, I get frustrated and
frustration, yeah.
And also, for somebody like you who, you know how to study.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Noria. Let's say it. But if I was sitting if I really owned a real good text, and I sat in a group together, and we learned together, it would be a whole other level of.
I think it's not true at all.
No.
Basically, Eon takes place between you and the text. Ultimately, what we're doing is, there's a phrase, you can take the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. What we've tried to do is to make the text accessible to people. But the Eon is something that you have to do on your own. And you can choose to do it with somebody a little bit, but ultimately it's between you and the text. And now, here you can look at the Mittler Rebbe. He's actually describing a few stages, and the previous Rebbe also does. He says, first of all, you have to know the text really well.
So that's a choice you have to make all the time between all the various projects that we're doing, that we have to choose to give time to this. And that is very, 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 very tricky.
I understand. But the point is really that I think as women, we study Begirsa a lot, and we don't necessarily study Be'iyun. Maybe, it's different for you. You've written a book, so you studied your topic Be'iyun. But the only thing that we really come to understand is what we study Be'iyun. And so that you know it so well that you can teach it to yourself. This is the process of Iyun. Bina of Bina is just the most external understanding of the letters, and you forget it. And if basically we sit at that external level and expect transformation. We're just dealing with the level of information. If we want transformation, we have to go, deeper. At least, even Rochav of Bina is just where we understand it for ourselves and really know it well. in order to come to what he's describing, which is the oimek of Bina, where transformation begins to happen, where paradigms change, where something transforms, where you get to the level of histaklut, where you begin to see something, not just to hear it, not where you're transitioning from Bina to Chokhmah. That's where transformation happens. And so in a way, it's frustrating because we keep going back to the lowest level, which is not even knowing the pshat. You can't build on anything, not individually and not as a group. You go nowhere. And so, you know,
the thing
Mila
is gets complicated. Yeah, things get complicated. No, the thing is that the thing gets complicated. The complication comes when things get nitty-gritty and we are thrown with thousands of details and we don't have that thread that puts all the details together. You know, it's like what do you call it? Beads, right? It's like scattered beads and we get confused because we cannot, because only when we thread them one by one on a thread, we can pull it and we could see the beginning and the end. What is he talking about? Yeah, that's a lack of confusion. That's the order. But you're right. When we read the Middle Rebbe like that, right, we're like, oh my gosh, what are you talking about? What's where? Iyun, who activates who? What's Amakasadas? What this has to do with this? What that has to do with that? And it's a confusion. Confusion is when we see beads all over the room and we're like, oh, who spilled the beads? Right? But truly, if they're on a thread, so what? Somebody threw it out. You pick it up, you pick up the top, you pick up the bottom, and they're all aligned. And you have clarity. But if those beads were just pieces of information everywhere, and we don't have the point that connects them into one order, so then, yeah, we're going to remain confused. You know, and the Iyun is the one that provides us that clarity. Oh, that's what it means. Okay, so now the bead goes on a thread. Oh, that's what it goes. And now the bead goes on a thread. And it just continues piling. So then it creates the order. And maybe we will make a mistake that, you know, number 2 should be above number 3 and number 3 should be above number whatever, right? So you could take it all out and then put it in the right order. But at least you have some Seder that's building on it, right? Because then if we just get different details from different ma'amarim, from different things, and we continue putting it in our jewel box, it's not helping us, because if the jewel box scatters, you know, we have beads all over. Yeah, so that's, you know, that Iyun process is birur, and it says makom habirur. That helps us. Okay, now this goes here, goes here. And yes, it is dry. And yes, it is, but it will help us with less of confusion. Okay, it will help us not to be.
But what if people don't have time? What if people don't have time afterwards?
This is what I
don't
want
take
to
time
ask
to do
you.
it?
I really
But
want
what
to
about
ask
in the breakout room to work it out and figure out, I need to explain this to a 5-year-old. Let's figure out together how to explain this to a 5-year-old. Then we know.
For sure, we could do a breakout room, but I think we're delving with this information for the last 2 years. I think we've done enough breakout rooms.
Obviously not. Wait, obviously not.
But I'll tell you what it is.
Obviously
it's like
not.
There is only so much we could cover in the group setting. And then, as Naria mentioned, we need to take it home and read it. Just read it home, and you know, organize the, you know, the notes, and you know, create our own diagrams the way our brain understands it, and then look the diagrams that we've given, and then visit the text and trying to organize things. And only through this, because we need to own it. You know, a teacher could explain it, but if it didn't go through our own process of understanding that will make sense to us, we won't.
Can I ask you something about this? I mean, I've thought about this for a long time. So why do you think it is that of all of us, or maybe it's not all of us, you have tried so hard to instill in us this idea of iyun, and yet so many of us have not managed to find time in our lives amongst everything. What is it, that's keeping you guys so frustrated that nobody has chapped or been able to take the time, make the place in their life to grasp all this? It takes a lot of time. And you have to really have a very strong motivation and interest to make such a big time slot aside from the classes. What do you think?
So, first of all, it doesn't, there are one or two people in this group who have done it. And they have come to me literally with tears in their eyes with gratitude.
That's beautiful.
So,
Thank you for sharing that.
saying, why is this not everybody at the most formative stages? Because this is the foundation of all foundations. This is teaching you the most basic information that you will encounter in any other class that you go to. You'll start to see it everywhere. It's in Tanya, it's everywhere. It's a gift that the Rebbe is giving us, where he's laying it out in such a user-friendly way. And so there are one or two people who have, for whatever reason, decided to take the time to do it. And now the thing is that, we spoke. Alkalea, you muted.
No, you said decided to take the time. I don't know. I think there's something missing here. It's
I
you could do it for 10 minutes a day. And that would be, you can do anything for 10 minutes a day. And that would be sufficient time.
I think I'll tell you what I'm suspecting. I don't know if Alkalea, this will answer your question. I think, what Naria is trying to convey is that we are used to, and from my own observation with myself, number one, okay, I went through this, and in my study of Shar Yichud, there were years that I just left it, and I came back to it actually through engaging, with a non-Jewish friend who kind of, triggered me into learning this with her. And, we Baruch Hashem went through like 37 chapters together with her. It took us a couple of years. Every day we would do, 5 a.m., meeting. So, if I'm going to reflect on what my process of this, it is very tedious. You're asking a question. Why is that I'm not swimming against the river flow? It's much easier to swim with the flow. That just no brainer, right? We are used to thinking as we used to think. Our main patterns, our river is flowing. That's it. With every year that we live by, it's swimming faster and faster. Okay, because our brain likes to automatize things. This is just the human nature. Okay, so now, and he uses here an expression. What the expression of iyun is to pause. We do not like to pause. That's it. We're not used to it. It's not our usual mode to pause on things. We want to, we want to run. We want to swim, especially, we think that we have life experience and we know things, and, we know so much Chassidus, and this is how it's always given. That's, I think, Nakuda number one. Nakuda number one is we're not used to stopping the flow and analyzing, because yes, it will create a little tension. Okay, and swimming against the stream is, really requires a skill to swim. You need to be a good swimmer to swim against the stream of our thoughts. and go back to the essence. That's number one. Number two, we are used to learning from others. We are used to being guided into something, okay? And this is just also our human nature. And to really kindle our inner desire, you know, that I have everything within me. I don't need a teacher in a way, right? And interestingly, I was kvetching to Naria in the beginning of our meeting, our planning meeting. It's like, oh, we need a teacher. We need that. It's all of us, you know, we feel frustrated. It's like, yeah, we wanna really, because our perception of Golus, that knowledge and wisdom is outside of me. And what I think the Rebbe is trying to teach us, it's like, no, I'm inside. Here, just go in and I'll teach you. Meaning not I'll teach you, me and you are one. Okay? You don't need to go outside of you, you know, somewhere else to get it. It's easier that way. So I think this is the second nakuda. And the third nakuda could be that we, you know, we're not doing enough our own work. And, you know, we are unable to, you know, to kind of kindle, you know, others into this work. That's also, you know, part of truth to it. So I think all of it culminatively together, you know, maybe creates, you know, certain frustration and like, you know, why aren't we really doing the EU? But the bottom line is, you know, everybody, you know, as much as we could talk about it, we could give, you know, what we've done, but everybody would kind of have to sit like, okay, let me do the Iyun. And I don't think we need to take like, oh, I need to do hours of Iyun. How about we could start with 10 minutes a day? Just 10 minutes. I learn a concept, I read it, and I focus on it. And how long does it take to read one paragraph? And little takes a long way, and it's also the fastest way. Because we don't overwhelm our system. We don't need to like do who knows what somersaults or anything. One portion a day. You know, that's how we reprogram our brain by repetition, by small steps. But consistency is the key. And it looks like that once a week. It's not.
Alkalea,
yeah, you muted Alkalea.
I mean, I don't necessarily need, no, it's something that you need to hear. I'm just talking to myself and I'm saying yes. And we've learned from being Chabadniks, you know, we have chakras, we have brachas before, we have Ritas, we have Rambam, we have da. But besides, we all came into this program already having full lives. And I don't know if anybody understood, maybe people did. I certainly didn't, what it was going to require in terms of making. I mean, I hear what you say. I just feel so bad for you guys because you're, you know, especially Nira seems so frustrated with us because Eon, and nobody, you know, is doing. Okay, she said two people did. Anyway, that's it. I just sorry. I feel bad for you guys, like putting so much into it.
You know what? You don't have to.
Can I say something?
Let me just answer that. You don't have to feel bad for us. I feel bad for you. No, because if you were to do Yun, you would reach the onik of your neshama. And without Yun, you're not really studying Torah. So bottom line, like when you do the Yun, you reach to a place in yourself that is unlike anything. And that's why he's telling us that you reach the Bina Liba. And so we can learn it. And it's like learning the recipe book without cooking the food and tasting it. You have to be learning about Iyun, but go and do the Iyun. And then taste the food. It won't be a recipe book. It'll be the actual meal.
I have a point. I have a point to make if you would be patient to hear it.
Yes.
First of all, it's not in vain. I'm finding my moments, and there's nothing like when my eyes are looking at the letters and my eyes are reading or translating and reading English and understanding it. That's Ian. So I do it small section by small section. I I find Shabbos and I try before davening, like you suggested at the very beginning. And the real theme for me is how do we live our lives and how do we use time? How do I use my time? Like that beautiful description of the baby, like gazing at his or her hands. That's how I want to live in life. I want to be in the moment. And this is actually the Rebbe's concept of Hatzlacha Bisman. It was explained to me that Hatzlacha Bisman, what is it? How do we use time? It's really literally by being totally in the moment. So, and then the divisions between activities are so minimal that we can get so much more done in our day. So that's a lesson for me. It's not just about the mimer. It's not just about everything. It's about how I live my life in all its details at every moment. So there's plenty time. And also the Rebbe used to say, when people would come to him and say, what can I get rid of in my schedule? It's too much. I'm overwhelmed. The Rebbe would say, add another project. And then there'll be expansion in your life to actually fulfill it.
That's so beautiful. Beautiful. Can I say something? It's not going to be as beautiful as what you said. It's true that time is elastic. That's why I always hesitate to bring up this point. But 2 hours, when I go to every class I come to, I say, I can't believe, how am I going to put 2 hours into this? So most classes that we attend, and especially if they're recurring on a weekly basis, will be 1 hour, 1.5 hours. 1.5 hours is a spillover. You expect an expectation for a class would be an hour, especially if it's every week. And then I think so. I think if I would invest 1 hour as opposed to 2 hours, then I would find time somewhere. But once I did a 2-hour class, I can't give any more time to this. I can't possibly. I have an allocation of so many things going on in my life. So yes, time is a
I would say, let me just say that the reason that we do a 2-hour class is because nobody's doing Iyun. If people were doing Iyun, the class would be much shorter.
So how about we try that way? How do we know that no one's going to be doing Iyun if we do less?
By what?
Hmm?
What do you, like literally, if from the beginning we're doing Iyun, the reason that it has to expand is because no one's doing it.
So that's why it expanded, or they started with a 2-hour class. You didn't start with a 1 expand to 2, did you?
We started with
our initial was till 11:30.
Yeah.
And then, especially the second chapter, it's,
Look, they're a very lovely discussion, but as far as I remember, it was 2 hours right from the beginning. It was supposed to be maybe, but it never was in my memory. It was always, and it always went a path. And when I finished that, I am so behind. I'm still going to work today. And I haven't made any calls that I have to make. I haven't done any projects. I'm way behind. I started my weekend. I'm already way behind. How am I ever going to find time to go back to it? I feel like I exceeded what I can give one project for a week. That's what really goes on every week. I can't even go back to it.
But I think, Gitti, I think the thing here that the Iyun in general, it's not a project. It's a way of life.
But who says I'm not doing Iyun? Who says we're not?
No, you are doing. I'm not saying nobody. No, listen, nobody's blaming you. I don't think Nuria was blaming anybody.
No, but we want to be able to give more time to this. I would want to re-look. I would want to reread. If we would have like a 1-hour class and give us a homework and see if we do our homework. Let's see. Maybe we're going to say sorry.
I think we've done this. We've given homework. It's not
doing that, and we did break out
a 1-hour class.
Thing that everyone's suggesting. Anyway, you know what? It's now past 2 hours. We're into 2 hours and 20 minutes. So I think that we're kind of going around in circles. Maybe we should just leave it for now and think about it.
I mean, it's listen, it is what it is, and we'll take things as they come.
It's not like we're going to stop teaching it. I think because as one of the women said to me, even though she doesn't get it, she's getting a vocabulary. It's teaching people a vocabulary, even if it changes like your makif knowledge. That's fine. But if you really want to get something out of it, it's a choice, you know, just like it's a choice for anything that we do. And it's an opportunity. And if people want to take it, it's, you know, it's a special opportunity to learn Reb Hillel. And that's, you know, and each individual for his own. I understand people don't have time or, you know, choose not to put their time towards this. It's fine. But then my point is, don't take up time in the class asking questions if you haven't done your homework. If you don't know what's going on and then come and create mud because you don't know what's going on, that is a problem for me more than anything.
Right, but what if everyone's in the same mud? In other words, if you're the only one, then you don't have a right. But what if everyone has that same question?
But you don't know.
Uh-huh.
You don't know. Like for Miriam, Miriam is one of the people who has done the Iyun. So when we come and create confusion around Makasa Das and Maimek, when for her it's organized, it's problematic. You know, because we're just creating mud where before there is some kind of understanding. So meaning like, okay, you can ask a question, but the question needs to come from knowledge. You know, it's like, these are concepts we've learned before. If you don't know them, go back and learn them from the beginning, but don't take everybody into that. And you're right, okay, maybe other people don't know them, but then it's the same problem for everybody that, no, go back to the source, or if you don't want to, it's fine, then, you know, but we'll just continue to go back. And actually, Mila, I would say this is kind of the reason why I hesitated to go into to go into the Mittel Rebbe's Torah, because that's kind of confusing for people. If you know Reb Hillel really well, then it's useful, but otherwise it's not. Otherwise, it's really not, because it's just we're going back into chapter 1 again, and like realizing what people don't know and what is not known, and I mean it's not useful to go back into that. So, you know, on the one hand, everybody wants to go to the original, but unless you know Reb Hillel well, there's not that much point. It just takes us back to the beginning again, and I don't see the point in doing it. Actually,
right. No, the whole goal was to go into the Mittel Rebbe, so it creates this aha moment. Oh yeah, we studied it here. Oh yes, we did it then. Now, oh now that makes sense why he's bringing this. You know, on like, you know, this whole Sharon Bina all of a sudden would make more sense. This, you know, the meaning whatever Reb Hillel didn't add, because for whatever reason in his, you know, biur will start making sense, because everything started laying into how the Rebbe was packaging it to give it to us. So it's like, you know, it would be more of a klal, you know, bringing all pratim together.
I'm very excited about learning the Mittler Rebbe. I don't know how everybody else feels. Like for me, it's a major motivator. Like, why would I spend all this time learning the Talmud and have not even stepped into the Ravs?
But Gitti, you don't understand the point. The point is, unless you know Reb Hillel very well, when you step into the Mittler Rebbe, it's like you're going back to point A. Without everything that Reb Hillel has given you in order to understand the Mittler Rebbe. So we have this thing, oh, I want to learn the Mittler Rebbe because it's a source. But if we didn't read the Rashi, you can't understand the text if you don't know. I mean, maybe I'm mixing metaphors here, but we have this idea that we should learn the Mittler Rebbe, but unless you know Reb Hillel really well, you're just going to get confused by the Mittler Rebbe. And it's
yeah, I mean, it's there is a reason why, you know, it's interesting, but in Nun Beis, the Rebbe gave a directive to Kehas to print the Mittel Rebbe with Rebbe Hillel. Never happened before. There's pretty much no chassidim that were published together with the Rebbe. Now, and even, you know, I believe it was, you know, Rebbe Friedeker Rebbe or Rebbe Rashab, when they asked the questions on Shara Yichud, the Rebbeim would send them to Rebbe Hillel, like, okay, he'll explain you. You know, it's I hear the question of that, like, oh, why do we need to study it with Rabbi Hillel? Because we could understand from the Rebbe. I mean, if somebody could read it and make sense of it the same way how, Rabbi Hillel explains it, because like, it's not like a chiyuv, it's not a chiyuv. But he provides so much clarity, and we could see now, just by us delving into, after 2 years of study, right? Can you imagine how much we would be confused if we wouldn't have all the information from the Bureau? You know what I mean? Like, people usually come in, they study a few sentences, they're like, okay, my brain is not for this, I'm going to go do something else.
Totally see that, yes. And really, the background prepared us for this, and we would not have, I would not have the Tainug in learning today had I not had that background, and no question about it. Yeah, because now I was familiar with the terminology, and really that's what we've been doing from the beginning. That's what was such a difficulty, because all we're doing is learning a lot of terminology. It's almost like a vocabulary class. Like, what is
Right,
this?
because Hasidic, yeah, the Lashon, right, and
us.
trying to translate it, forget about it. Learning it from English translation is like, I don't know if that's a good idea. The whole point is really, familiarizing ourselves with a certain terminology and learning it. And frankly, when you do it that way, the other things that you learn in Chassidus, right? Because this is not the only thing we learn. We learn other sichos, other ma'amarim. They start making sense. And other thing that I find interesting is that when you learn things be'iyun, especially such structured work like these, when you go and learn sicha, your brain automatically looks for certain keywords, for certain expressions. And the terminology that you learn here, you could apply it there. That's why Sharichut is called key to Chassidus, that really provides that the key. It's also mafteach, but mafteach is also point of reference. There's a mafteach.
But it's really using different terms. It's not terms that we encounter. He is using a different set of terms. Other Rabbeim, I think, you call the same thing different words.
I don't know. By our Rebbe, I see a lot of words being used in Ma'amarim. Yeah.
What, like which words?
First of all, they never go into this whole process of how ideas are being born. Not that many Ma'amarim,
Right,
maybe Rebbe Rashab touches it, about, the Maimek, Amakasadas, and all that, right?
Right.
But what terminologies you haven't used?
That's what I'm talking about. This whole thing, this whole structure. It's not really.
Yeah, I think is just, in Chassidus, this is just common knowledge, that, this is the Yisod, this is how things develop. And the rest is the information. But this is the process. Chachma, Bina, Haskala versus Hasaga, Habana, Hasaga, and all these terminologies, they're very wildly used. We just, I don't know if it's expected of, usually people concentrate on concept versus the details. The general concept. When I was learning in Machon and then in Beis Rivka, that's what it was. They concentrate on the concept, the bottom line, we call it, right? We call it b'chein. The bottom line, yeah. Exactly. And right away applying, we know that it's really not advised right away to focus on application without actually understanding the concept. You don't need to focus on application. If you really very well understand the concept, the b'chein is going to come, because the b'chein is how your brain registers it. Is your tvuna, if you, speak that way. The b'chein is your tvuna. So then it comes automatically. And to be honest, people are not used to do avodas hamoichin. It's a new avodah. Let's put it this way: avodas hamoichin is a new avodah. It's not.
But really, anytime you learn a mimer, you're going to do avodas hamoichin. It depends which mimer, but my mimer are going to
all of them for sure. It's a way of study. And interestingly, out of all works, the Rebbe in the Sikh of avodas hamoichin says dvarim amukim, the way it's brought down by the Mittel Rebbe, Rachov Sanar. So, why is it? Because you see, with Mittel Rebbe, you cannot fool yourself. When you learn works like that, you're going to either fall asleep or fall out. if you do not activate your iyun. You cannot survive. You know whose stories really brings this out is Rabbi Kusil Lapler. You know, he was the chassid of the Alter Rebbe. Okay, and he thought he understood Chassidus. Okay, until a younger man, when Mittel Rebbe became the Rebbe, he didn't have a chance to see the Rebbe yet. And the Mittel Rebbe instituted that younger mans who came to the Rebbe would go back, and wherever the villages, the way they stopped, they would be chazer the Maimer Chassidus that they heard from the Rebbe. And that's what this one younger man did. He came into Rabbi Kusil's town, and he was chazer the Maimer. And Rabbi Kusil said, oh, well, I don't really understand. And he kept this younger man for a week, I think, in his house, and was asking him to repeat the Maimer over and over until he understood it. He doesn't understand. So he felt so crushed. So he ran to Mittel Rebbe. He went to travel to Lubavitch, and he came into the Mittel Rebbe, and he just, burst into crying, and he says, Rebbe, I don't understand your Chassidus. And that's the famous thing where the Rebbe says, Shum davar lo omed bifnei haratzon. Nothing stands in the way of a ratzon. Go and study. And then he guided him, and then Imre Bina was written for him, right? So this guy, he really taught, breaking his head. So now the question is asked, get to hear, okay, well, what happened? He was not a young chassid. He was by the Alter Rebbe, okay? Actually, Alter Rebbe made him into a tzaddik. That's a whole story on its own, how he made him into a tzaddik. So the question is asked, like, what do you think? I mean, this is the first time you hear Chassidus. I mean, you're not. He was already like a middle age. He wasn't a young boy who was confused. He knew Chassidus. So what changed with the Mittel Rebbe? Well, because Mittel Rebbe's style was very different, okay? He gave in a lot of details and the length, and Ruchav Sanar. So that then when he understood that he doesn't understand, you understand? When he heard the Chassidus of the Alter Rebbe, he kind of, felt that he understands. Because when you give things in short, in cloud, so then yes, you could understand, you could fool yourself that, oh, I understand it. But when you do like that, Mittel Rebbe really makes you feel that you do not understand. Okay.
But
you really need to
but
study.
different contrastum will have a different flavor. Like
For sure, this contrast
there
is
are
specifically
things you could
about
learn from the Mittel Rebbe that you could just read it, and he flows and he repeats and it makes beautiful
right,
points.
because it's but for example, about the davening, fine. But I'm talking about specifically this at Kutrasei Spilos. These are more of a Yesod type of work, and they really it's Kutrasei Hisbonenus, like it's everything what the Hisbonenus should be, and he says very clearly it's what is Hisbonenus and what should be misboinen on. He makes it very clear in the Hagdama that this is what his kuntrus is about. It's a lot of details, because truly, Hashem, all the way from his essence till this, pencil, that's a lot of steps. Yeah, it's like us feeling separate. Yeah, because Hashem designed it like that. So for us to go back, to travel all the way till Atzmos and bring this, this reality, and bring that reality of Atzmos down to this world, it is a process, 100%. Is it a boring process? Yes. Is it a rewarding process? Absolutely. But it's a different type of work, and we're not used to it. We're not used to this type of thinking, this type of attention to details. And it is b'derech prat. And when the Rebbe is choosing where we could see Avodas HaMoichin done properly, right, is when we do study Mittel Rebbe, because there you are very clear, you cannot fool yourself. There's absolutely no chapter of Shari Yichud or any other Maamar, and by the way, the Rebbe refers to another Maamar about Moab, this whole, in that Sikha, the Rebbe talks about the Samoichin, you read it, it's like you feel your brain's going to fall out. Yeah, it is, because it is swimming against the stream. And swimming against the stream, you need to have a skill. You need to be a good swimmer. okay? In order to swim for the, on the flow, you don't need to be a good swimmer. You just need to know how to, float. That's okay. But yeah, it's a piece of work. It will require, and I think we could just go back to the story that I mentioned last time. Is when a student and a teacher were walking down the street, and a student said, "When I will reach my enlightenment," and his teacher said, brought him to the river and then put his head down. And he said, when your desire to reach the enlightenment will be as intense as your desire to gasp air, then when you will reach the enlightenment. So when we come to this realization that the Chassidus is the very breath that you are taking in, so then you will find time to do Eon. Because the Eon is not going to be something separate. It's not like a thing. It's not like a checkpoint and my list of things that I need to do. It's like everything that you do, it will be done in the Eon part, ideally. But that will require, the internal avoidance. It doesn't come on its own. But the reward is tremendous.
Now, when the Rebbe said to learn Shar HaYichud,
he didn't say to learn Shar HaYichud explicitly. He said to learn the deep ideas that Mittel Rebbe brings down, and that these works were recently printed. And which works were recently printed? It was 2 works of the Mittel Rebbe. So Rebbe kind of alludes to it, but it doesn't explicitly.
Shar HaYichud, no?
It did not. No.
I thought
you could look up the Sikha.
No. I thought we did.
No, he mentions Shar HaYichud in a different places when we learn a Basi Legani of this year from Memhei.
You want me to stop the recording, or you?
Yeah, that would be great.
I'm actually going to take off.